Shall we begin?
Why not? Welcome to Frankie Sense and More. It's like she's got a whole lot of goodness for you with a little bit of sass.
Frankie, did you just say?
She sure did. Not to mention, along with...
Whoops.
Join us now as Frankie Picasso and her new co-host mix it up with authors, musicians, and interviews with world-changing people.
Let's begin, girl.
Okay, let's begin now, because it only makes sense.
Well, hello there and welcome to Frankie Sense and More. I am so pleased that you guys have joined me today, and I got some very special guests that I'm so excited for you to meet. First up, we have Dr. Elaine Lung, and she is the Executive Director and founder of Sea Smart, which is a nonprofit, and the mission is to inspire and empower young people to love and protect our oceans. Does it get better than that? Her kids call her Dr. E, and she's a marine biologist whose profession has taken her around the world, including Antarctica, Alaska, Hawaii, New Zealand, and of course the beautiful British Columbia that she calls home. She's had the good fortune to study amazing animals like whales and dolphins and sea lions and penguins and other critters, she says. And she has worked for various governments, universities, nonprofits, and mining and gas industries. Her research focuses mainly on threatened species, which I think is amazing, what's causing their decline and how to minimize their impacts. So, Dr. E, I'm going to call you that as your kids do. I know that you are absolutely passionate about conservation and raising environmental awareness. So before we just get into Sea Smart and the education programs that you have there, can you please tell us a little bit about how much trouble are we really in? Like, it's scary. I mean, people are afraid. We hear that the coral reefs are dying. We hear that the ocean is dying. We can do some things, but how bad is it?
One of the reasons why I started at Sea Smart is because whenever you turn on TV, all you hear are bad news stories of the planet. And it sounds so bad that people get overwhelmed and they feel hopeless and they think there's nothing I can do to help. So I'm just going to block it out. I'm not going to even think about it. And yes, things are bad. Species are going extinct at a faster rate than we ever expected. Our polar ice caps are melting faster than we ever expected. Antarctica and Arctic are getting warmer than we've ever seen. So things are bad, but at the same time, it's not too late. There's something that each and every one of us can do to help. And you can imagine, as a marine biologist who studies endangered marine animals, I've really experienced firsthand all the threats our oceans are facing. But at the same time, I've realized that there's something each and every one of us can do to help. And together, we can do so much more.
You know, I've noticed recently, probably in the last 2 months, we go into a restaurant now in Toronto. I live in Toronto. There's no straws. And there's a reason for that. And I don't know if you're one of the people who are responsible for that, but I think I have a feeling you might be. And so because straws are plastic is dangerous for the marine animals, but we've seen where different animals in the ocean have gotten caught up from straws and birds and things. It's really, they're dangerous. Plastic doesn't go away, right?
Exactly. So plastic pollution is one of the biggest threats to our oceans. It's actually a topic that I really enjoy teaching about because there's such simple things we can do to help. We all use so much single-use plastics in our lives. And when you help raise awareness about how much damage these plastics can cause, these plastics that we use for only a couple of minutes and then we throw away because it's convenient, when you realize how much damage it causes, then it raises awareness of where do I actually need these items in my life and where can I find reusable alternatives instead?
Yeah, I mean, I see it in the baby industry. Lots of moms are choosing not to go to the Pampers or choosing to use just, real diapers again. They're new and improved, I think, over what they used to be. But, even diapers, landfill, right? Just horrific. Now, you had some numbers on, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know if you can remember, but it was something like 5 billion tons of plastic going to landfills or what is it? I don't know how many elephants worth of.
Yeah, so about 8 billion kilograms of plastic garbage enters our oceans every year.
Oh my
gosh. And that's just plastic, not just including the other types of garbage. And the problem with plastic is that it never disappears. It just breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces. And it's absorbing toxins along the way, all the toxins that are in the ocean. And then these pieces of plastic are getting eaten by all the animals in the ocean. So virtually every type of marine organism, from the smallest microscopic plankton to the largest of whales, have been known to eat plastic.
Wow.
And for those of us who eat seafood, this plastic ends up back in us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, you've got large mammals, like eagles or birds that, eat seafood and land animals, and then the toxins just keep on growing inside. It's really horrific. So as much of that, is that plastic dumped there? Is it brought there from winds and tornadoes? Are people really just like dumping? They're on a boat and they just dump? I can't imagine.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways this plastic enters our oceans. So if you look at it, actually, the majority of plastic in our oceans comes from countries in Asia where they don't have waste management facilities. So they are actually dumping all their garbage either in the oceans or in rivers. Everything's connected to our oceans. So whenever
Sure.
something gets thrown into a river or a stream or a lake, it ends up in our oceans. So that's not to say that people in developing countries aren't a part of this problem either. Within Canada, only about 11% of all plastic is recycled.
Wow.
So plastic that gets littered on the ground can get blown into storm drains or blown into, again, all the water systems by wind, rain, storms, and that ends up in the oceans. This is why we keep telling people that, yes, Asia might be more of a contributor to the plastic in the oceans than Canada is. It doesn't mean that's still not our problem. We are
Sure.
all connected to our oceans.
Yeah. I just want to, Thomas, you can put your mic back on for a second. What is it Great Britain like in terms of recycling?
It seems at a local level that there's evidence that most local authorities do get involved. And I think children are such a powerful resource in every family, because my girls, although they're older now, they're very much on the ball. And I think they bring home valuable messages. But equally, it's important for people like Dr. E to shout from the rooftops often, get on television and let people understand how bad it is. That video that you produced was brilliant. I watched it earlier. But I'm embarrassed to say I've been looking at our desk. It's full of plastic. I've got a tub here of spectacles. I've got a plastic collecting box, perspex, display signs. Everything is plastic. So we're all to blame, and we've got to take responsibility and start doing something.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. So kids are the best, because kids will come and tell you you're doing it wrong. You should do this, right? So you start at the next generation, because this generation's almost too, can't train an old dog with new tricks. So you start at with the young ones who are trainable, and they're the next generation. We haven't been very good stewards, my generation, unfortunately. So working with the kids as you've done, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy. Get them to fall in love with the ocean. Do you just do it in British Columbia? Do you go around different parts of the world? I know you've traveled around the world, so have you started the program other places?
It's been around for a year and a half now. We started in Vancouver, British Columbia, and we've taught almost 5,000 kids now throughout Metro Vancouver. And we're recently working on a campaign with the Canadian federal government to teach as many kids as possible across Canada about ocean plastic pollution. And we're partnering with different ocean education organizations to do that. And the whole idea is, as you mentioned, kids are, they aren't jaded by the world. They're still open to new things. And they also have a lot of power and influence on their households.
They do.
But the problem with kids these days is that most kids are spending most of their waking hours indoors behind a screen, and they're losing a connection with nature. Exactly. Kids are on their phones or computers or tablets. And it's a problem, because when you lose your connection with nature, you only protect what you love. Yeah. And if kids don't have that love for nature, why would they do anything to protect it?
Yeah. And kids, they really do love to be outside in nature. They do. They just need somebody give them a little, get out there. And then they're just so amazed by animals. My kids used to love to go to a farm, go to the ocean, go fishing. It's beautiful. And they do love it once you get them out there. You just got to get them out there. Right. So yeah. Who's more receptive, boys or girls?
It depends. I really can't really.
So both genders are equal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really depends on personality of kids. And definitely for our summer camps, they're all at the beach. And we'll have kids arrive that are very urbanized. They are used to the city life. They freak out when they first arrive because they get their hands dirty and they get their shoes dirty. And there's an outhouse, there's no proper toilet, and they are just losing their minds. But by the end of the program, they're just fully in there and just like digging around the sand, just flipping over rocks, trying to see all the cool things that are on the beach, because we helped open their eyes to how amazing our oceans are and all the wonderful magic there is there.
I love it. You know, I'm an artist, and I started to do a series of animals that are becoming extinct in Canada. And one of them was the river otter. So what other animals are becoming extinct in Canada?
In terms of marine mammals,
Doesn't matter, anything. I'm doing birds, fish, bees, whatever. But I'm just curious, like what ocean animals do we need to be worried about next?
there's a North Atlantic right whale, which there's only about 300 left, and they keep getting hit by boats. That's one of the main threats to
Those
them.
3,000 boats out there that are coming down
Well, this is on the Atlantic coast. So
on the
out here
Atlantic.
on the Pacific coast, did you see the video of the killer whale who's carrying around her dead baby for a couple of weeks? So that's a really heartbreaking story, because that female, she belongs to a group of killer whales called the southern resident killer whales. They're a genetically distinct population of killer whales. So even though killer whales are found all around the world, there's this group, the southern residents. They speak their own language. They only breed within the southern residents, and there's only 74 of them left. All the calves that have been born in the last 5 years, 74.
Wow.
All the calves that have been born in the last 5 years have died. So this population just keeps declining. And there's lots of different causes. There's lots of pollution in the water. So as a female, when she's accumulating all those toxins, most of the toxins get stored in the fat. So when you think about it, what's milk made of?
Yeah.
Fat. So these females are essentially feeding their babies
And
toxic.
estrogen gets stored in fat, and so women have more of it, females have more of it. So even if it's a vicious cycle.
So there's all these toxins in the water. There's also all this underwater noise that interferes with their ability to communicate with each other and also to find their food. And then also their food, they mainly eat Chinook, and those aren't doing well either, because again of all the pollution, as well as all the dams and all the development in the key areas where they live.
What can we do?
What can we do? It's always a good point. Well,
Makes my heart break. Oh my God. I'm so emotional now.
I know. So there's different projects that are known to, increase boat traffic. For instance, the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion that's supposed to increase tanker traffic by 7 times. So you can imagine if the oceans here are already so noisy that the killer whales are having difficulty finding food and finding each other, how much louder is it going to be, and how much more difficult will it be for boats here? So we always tell people, you can definitely vote by choosing politicians who support projects that you're interested in.
Yes.
But also you can vote with your dollars. And this is why I always tell our students, you're too young to vote whether or not Kinder Morgan goes forward or other development projects with lots of boat traffic, but you can at least start buying locally. So then there's no need for all these things, all these goods and food to be shipped all around the world to come to you. The same as, riding your bike more, walking more, driving less, because then again, there's less need for all these boats to be transporting gas all around the world.
Yeah, that's a really sad situation. I, as a Canadian, it really breaks my heart that that they even consider that pipeline. Really, the Salish people, they deserve to have this their land's pristine and their oceans pristine. I mean, that's just what they live for. So they were good caretakers. We weren't. So it's really sad that's a problem. So Sea Smart is taking these young kids and you're giving them a love of the ocean, and you've got after school programs, you've got in-school programs, you've got summer camp. So have other communities in different countries said, oh, we want to replicate what you're doing, Dr. E. Are you sharing the program, or is it spreading?
Yeah, so we've had lots of interest in Sea Smart because everyone recognizes, first of all, like, why wouldn't you try engaging kids on ocean issues? Because kids can be ocean superheroes. And definitely lots of discussions so I started Sea Smart a year and a half ago, and so far we've been operating mainly in Canada, but my dream is for us to be international, because you can't inspire and empower enough kids to love and protect our oceans, especially the ones that live far away from the ocean. Because again, we're all connected to our oceans.
a little while ago, I had another scientist on who studied the pink dolphin, and the pink dolphin is only in the river in Bolivia, and how it got there nobody knows because there's no outlet either side. But it's pretty interesting that they're everywhere. They're unique and different critters like everywhere, and they too are becoming extinct because of building and trees falling and in the river, like a beaver dam kind of thing happens, and then they have nowhere to go. They're kind of big. So it's important that we educate and educate and educate everywhere we go. So tell me about, if you know, and I'm sure you do, about the coral reefs. They say that the coral reefs are dying, but my friends in Australia say they're starting to come back. So what do you know about that?
So coral reefs are being hit pretty hard because coral is really sensitive to temperature changes. And as we know, the oceans are getting warmer. In addition, the oceans are also getting more acidic. And just because of all the carbon dioxide that's being put out in the atmosphere, the oceans actually absorb this carbon dioxide, and that creates this acidic reaction, essentially. And the skeleton of the coral reefs is getting dissolved by the acid.
Wow.
So the two of the main threats to coral reefs are the warming oceans, because that causes coral bleaching, which is when the algae that help live with the corals, they have this symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The rising temperatures actually get the algae to essentially leave or die, and this actually makes the coral really vulnerable as well. So, and then again, the acidity is dissolving the coral.
That's very sad. Now, I don't know. This is just off the wall bizarre, but I was just thought about it because I was watching a show, and this girl got cut by coral, and it started to grow inside her. So coral can grow in. It said that the human body is very good growing ground for coral. Is that true?
So I'm confused. So a chunk of coral was kept growing inside of her?
Well, she got cut by the coral. She was in the ocean. She got cut by the coral, and I guess it was infected because the coral started to grow inside her leg, like. And
I don't know
lived
if
in Hawaii
specifically.
before, and she'd heard of that before too. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but
I'm not sure if specifically coral that was growing inside of her or the organisms that were on the coral. So coral has lots of things living on it. And this is why it's really easy to get infections when you scrape any coral.
Gotcha.
And those critters are probably what were living on her and like really expanding and causing that infection. But I don't know if like the actual coral organism
Itself,
is growing
right?
in her.
Yeah. So if we want the coral to come back, then we need to make the ocean more alkaline, which seems kind of, it's salt. It should be alkaline.
What we need to do if we really want to help the corals and our oceans to reduce the acidity, we need to reduce our fossil fuel use. And this is not something that is new or that, we keep this latest report that has come out by the UN and saying, oh my gosh, there's all these drastic changes we need to do or else huge problems are going to happen. Like, well, we've been talking about this research for decades, and still the governments keep making all these promises that aren't quite enough in terms of capping our emissions or shifting towards renewable resources. And we know what needs to be done. That's the thing. It's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah.
So I was just reading this op-ed in the New York Times today, and it was saying fighting climate change is hopeless, but let's go for it anyways. And talking about, yes, there's lots of challenges involved, but there's no other species more capable of taking on these challenges than humans. Like, we are incredibly innovative and creative, and we have the technology and the resources to create changes. It's just a matter of the political and public will to do that.
And it's just absolutely mind-boggling to me how the U.S. took a giant step back with Trump with the pollution controls and just allowing businesses to do whatever they want and dump all the waste back into the rivers and into the lakes. And it just sets such a bad example everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, do you have really strict pollution laws in England, Thomas, Steph?
Yeah, we do. But, I think the sort of issues that tend to raise public awareness are things like fly tipping, but the big issues get forgotten. I think we've got to drive these messages home to people on the street, in every street, because it's only by coming together that we're ever going to get to the bottom of it. But we need expert advice, don't we? I was fascinated when you started talking about things living on coral. I think there's so much that we're just ignorant of, and I think if you can get down to that level, most people will take an interest in their environment and try and do something about it. So I think messages like you've got to get to the high street somehow, haven't you? So it's about thinking about people going shopping in supermarkets and how food is packaged and where it's coming from. That's the level at which most people operate, and then that they start taking an interest.
Yeah, but it's interesting because there's been so much done around so much talk about the environment and what's happening, and here you have a president of the United States who says it's all bunk, that there's nothing wrong with the planet, and the sun isn't going through the burning off the atmosphere, and everything's just fine, when it's not. And the people who dismiss what scientists are telling them, it's mind-boggling to me that people who are intelligent would say, no, that there's nothing wrong. Well, yeah, they're so greedy that they don't care, that they just need their stuff and then forget about what happens tomorrow. We can't do that. We cannot forget about tomorrow. We have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who are going to live here, maybe, maybe not. Who knows?
It's interesting because I talked to a lot of people about different environmental issues, and I remember meeting this person who, he doesn't recycle, doesn't compost, doesn't really do anything that's considered environmentally friendly. And I said to him, well, what about future generations? And says, well, I'm not going to have kids, so it doesn't affect me.
Oh my God.
And it was really interesting talking to him because he was a good person. It's just he has different priorities. And it really helped me realize that when you talk to people, you really need to frame it as in what's in it for
them.
What's in it for them, exactly. So just trying to figure out what their priorities are and see how, because
So
big
what
changes
was in it
right
for him?
now.
What was in it for him? How could you have turned him? Or did you?
Not in that one conversation. I did not turn him, unfortunately, but it really gave me this interesting framework to work with now whenever I chat with people, because I don't want to be seen as one of those, oh, Elaine's here again. All she's going to do is tell us about how the oceans are suffering, how the planet's suffering, how we can all do something to help. We just need to change all these things that are really convenient that we love in our lives, and then the whole world will be saved.
Right.
And really, people need to recognize why it's important, and it has to come from within themselves.
You need to tell them. So this is really important. Explain to people, if the ocean goes, the planet goes. Like, it's just that connected. So I'm going to hear it from the scientist's mouth.
I always tell people, no oceans, no us. The oceans provide over 50% of the oxygen we breathe. The oceans control the Earth's temperature and our weather, and it provides food to, over 1 billion people rely primarily on seafood as their main source of protein. No oceans, no us. This is why we need to care.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really scary. But I agree with you. There's some brilliant minds out there, and people, I think, as I said to Thomas, when he first came on the show a little earlier, we were talking about how there's so much negativity out there that people don't think there's anything good going on, but there's lots of good stuff going on. There are people always say to me, well, why doesn't somebody care about that? Lots of people care about it. Lots of people. You don't know about them, but they do. And they're working behind the scenes to make things better for the rest of us. Thank God. But we all need to get on board too and do our part.
I agree. We really need to make it more mainstream. Canada has hundreds of environmental NGOs. And again, they're all doing good work, but it's quite fragmented, the efforts, and we really need to collaborate more, because when you look at donations in general, the majority of donations go towards religion or religion-related causes. And then after that, healthcare. So when you look at donations globally, less than 3% go towards environmental causes. And I can understand, there's priorities for people. But again, it doesn't change the fact that we can't survive without our environment.
Yeah.
And again, this is why we need to do more for our planet.
I mean, can you imagine walking around here with, CPAP masks on or and that's how you're going to breathe, like a scuba diver, with a tank on your back? That's your everyday life. That would be horrible. Nobody wants
Well,
to live
in
like that.
BC, we're having such bad wildfires every summer. It's just getting worse. And sometimes you can't even leave your home because the air pollution is so bad.
Wow.
And we all know there's more and more research coming out now showing how air pollution is a huge contributor towards lung cancer, and
Yeah.
can actually result in higher cases of lung cancer than for a smoker, than smoking alone.
Wow. That's crazy. So wildfires, I mean, there's so much, and like you said, the oceans control the weather, and the weather's been not very nice to a lot of folks lately.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
So
because is that due to the oceans being polluted?
it's related to climate change with increasing temperatures, more carbon dioxide in our environment. It's resulting in these larger storm events, and drier weather, crazier weather, which is also leading to all these forest fires. So everything that we're experiencing right now, everything that we're seeing on the news that's hitting Asia and the East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to keep happening. It's going to get worse.
Wow. Well, I'm going to encourage everybody to do their part and do what they can to start to eliminate the plastics in your life. Buy things that are reusable, that you don't have to throw away. And you know what? Stop buying the toxicas. Stop buying all the stuff that ends up in landfills, because we don't need garbage everywhere. We don't need all those decoration items that most people buy and throw away, and that are wrapped in plastic. I mean, how much wrapping goes on to things that you buy? Computers and cameras and just everything. Even mugs, get wrapped in plastic, and there's just so much external wrap that just ends up in landfills. We don't need it. So
No, completely. And if people want more eco-friendly, ocean-friendly tips, then if they follow us on social media, we're at Sea Smart School.
Yep.
Then we send out weekly tips on really simple actions you could take
I
that,
like that.
they're so simple that you think, well, why wouldn't I do that? And yeah, they're all just different steps towards helping our planet and ultimately helping us.
At seasmartschool.com.
Well, the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter is at Sea Smart School.
Okay.
That's our handle. And then our website, seasmartschool.com.
And do you have, if somebody said, well, I don't know where to get alternatives, maybe you can start selling them on your site.
Well, we're really lucky in Vancouver. The zero waste movement is really spreading. So there's this package-free grocery store, Nada, that opened up in the summer, and it's phenomenal. This store is a dream come true. It was also opened by a marine biologist who realized
really?
she
Awesome.
realized a lot of the threats our oceans are facing are related to our food systems.
Yeah.
And that's why she's working. Not only is the complete store package-free, but she works through all the supply chains to reduce packaging as well.
That's phenomenal. And that's the kind of social impact that we need. And that's how everybody can do their own part and think about what can I do in my family? What can I do in my community? What can I do with the businesses that I work with? And in my own business, what can I do to eliminate the packaging and the plastics and all the things that harm our environment? Thank you so much.
We, as part of this national campaign with the federal government, we developed these free education resources on ocean plastic pollution. So all of your whole audience can actually participate in this challenge as well. They can go to our website, seasmartschool.com/ocean trash talk.
Yeah.
And, the resources were designed for teachers, but it's definitely something you could do within your own family or your friends and community, and just challenge each other. What can I do to really reduce my plastic pollution?
Yeah. What I just want to ask you before I move over to Thomas and stuff. What all the places that you've lived in the world, and you've lived in a lot, what was the most beautiful for you?
People ask me that all the time, and
I'm sure they
I
do.
can never answer because
They're all beautiful.
I've had the privilege to work in some of the most beautiful remote places in the world where no one goes out there except for scientists. And they're all so special in their own different ways.
Did you always want to be a marine biologist?
No, I actually get seasick.
Oh, do you?
And I'm a really bad swimmer. So people are always shocked
Wow.
When they find I'm a marine biologist, especially when I'm working on a boat and I'm throwing up the whole time. People keep thinking, "Why are you even here, Elaine? This is horrible for you."
Oh, that's
Um,
funny. So
but I
what
love
did you
my
think you
job.
would be? What did you think you would be?
I used to want to be an astronaut, but again, I get seasick, so I can't do that. And then I wanted to be a vet because I've always loved working with animals.
Me
And
too. I want
then
to be a vet.
I got this dream job when I was only 20 years old studying sea lions for UBC, the University of British Columbia. So fell in love with marine biology and never looked back.
That's phenomenal. I love it. So there I can't remember her name, so I shouldn't even bring it up. But she wrote the Outlander series, and she was a marine biologist. Did you ever meet her?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was just at the G7 summit in Halifax and I got to meet one of my ocean heroes, Sylvia Earle. So
Yeah,
that was just so heartwarming, such a special experience.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Sea Smart School, everybody. You have to go check it out, and uh, maybe you can call Dr. Lane and start one in your community. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, there. We have the Great Lakes. We have all. Even if it's not sea, the lakes are polluted. You can do something there too. So we're going to go over to England. Stick around if you like. We are going to meet Thomas Memory, who's sitting right there, and Steph Waters. Thomas is a development director for a UK registered grassroots charity called Omega, and it's the National Association for the End of Life Care. And Omega is a forward-thinking end-of-life charity that supports the bereaved and caring families who are looking after someone with life-limiting or terminal illness. Now, Thomas, he's got a history of leading charitable organizations. He has also worked as chief executive officer of a Welsh children's charity, and he's also involved in the management of a thriving social enterprise recognized as the European Center of Excellence work with BME entrepreneurs. Thomas, you've had an interesting background as a service examiner, as an insolvency service examiner, which is kind of interesting. And Steph Waters, you are the Chatterbox coordinator, and you manage the multi-award-winning Chatterbox Action Against Loneliness program, which I think is that's what drew me to you guys. You also have a degree in international studies and have traveled widely in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Maybe you and Dr. Lane have something to talk about. And I think it's really interesting that in this outreach program that you do, you also volunteer as a pen pal. And you have another program called Letters from Louise, which I want to know about. So that's very exciting. So Chatterbox is a multi-award winning service that's free, it's confidential. It's a telephone befriending program which supports families and caregivers, people nearing the end of life, those who are bereaved, lonely, socially isolated individuals, the frail and the elderly. Wow, I love that. What started you on this journey?
Well, we developed Chatterbox because we did a lot of face-to-face group meetings, and we found that as people got older, they couldn't keep coming to the groups. So we thought, well, we can't leave these people behind. We've got to have something for them. So we then thought the best way of reaching people was by telephone. It wasn't practical to go and visit them. Ideally, we'd like to visit everybody, but because they live all over the place, they're dispersed, we had to come up with a telephone solution.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. It was a lady called Connie. She was blind, and she came along to our group. She was her daughter took her along to the groups. The daughter developed cancer and was too ill to take mum, so she was really the inspiration. Then I met another gentleman doing some outreach activity. He was a widower, and he just told me how lonely he was, and
No.
he traipsed around shopping centres, just looking for friends and keeping in touch with people. So it was in response to real people, and that's how most of our work starts. It's trying to find a problem, trying to find a solution for a real problem.
I love that. And I think a huge forgotten group of people is the caregiver. Everybody asks, how is, your husband, how's your wife, how's your son, how's your whoever, but that caregiver has to be one of the most exhausted people around, and the one least likely that people ask about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's that label caregiver is a problem because they're just husbands and wives and mothers and fathers looking after their own family, and they're getting on with it and don't recognize that label. It's almost something that's taken for granted, and that's so difficult for people because they're a massive community resource, And I think we've got to think of people as remarkable individuals rather than the caring they do, because caring is done by some terrific people. They could probably be successful in all sorts of jobs and positions, and they are very often. The caring is just one aspect. They take it for granted, and they wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Stephanie, what is it that draws you to reach out to people like you are with the pen pals? And
just the experience really of being a part of Omega. You get to meet a lot of people, and I really like doing the job because I get to speak to so many different people, and it's amazing how interesting people's lives are and how they just want to talk about their lives but have got nobody to speak to. Like some people won't go on holiday because they've got nobody to tell when they get back about that holiday, nobody to show photos. So they become withdrawn and they end up staying indoors, not doing anything. So, but some of these people are so amazing and interesting that just speaking to them, and I speak to a lot of them myself as well. We have office welfare clients who don't have a regular befriender but still want to have somebody call them every now and again just to make sure that they're okay.
you know, people tend to dismiss the elderly. They think, oh, they're slow. They maybe they think they're stupid. I don't know what they think, but they have really fun stories. And they've had an amazing long life. They've gone through, especially today's elderly, some of them have gone through 2 world wars. That they can, they've seen the most change in the world that anybody will ever see, really. It's incredible. What is it, do you think? I mean, do you have a lot of young volunteers, or is it more people, middle-aged to seniors who want to go and talk to the seniors?
Well, we're getting more youngsters now. We tend to pick up postgraduate psychologists, people who are undergoing training.
Mm-hmm.
We get very young people. I think it's very important to do intergenerational stuff. Grandparents are so valuable because I think connecting that a child has with his grandparents are becoming younger these days, and perhaps it's great grandparents.
I'm a grandma.
Well, that relationship you have is so precious.
Yeah.
And I think it means such a lot. I was very lucky. I had good relationships with my grandparents, and it makes us the people we are. It gives us a whole new dimension. You learn about your parents or your grandparents. You see them as, in a different way.
Yes.
So we do try and encourage people to re-engage with their grandparents, with their grandchildren. It's becoming harder and harder because if you bear in mind that many of the clients that we're looking after are in their late 80s, early 90s, that they may have lost most people around them, and that some people have nobody. When we ask them for their next of kin, they struggle, and it might be a neighbour who they hardly speak with.
Yeah,
it might be their doctor.
It's very sad.
It is. But we're working with people who have nothing else, and you won't mind me raising this, but this week Steph has been to a funeral. You tell us all about it because
Yeah, I'm not sure if it reached across the pond, but we had a local Marine who died at the age of 94, and he was in a care home, but nobody visited him because he had no friends, no family, and it went out locally that there'd be nobody at his funeral. So I attended with our patron, who is a 102-year-old World War II veteran, RAF, and when we got there, over 200 people were there.
Really?
Wow. Wonderful, and he had the send-off. But on the flip side, it's very sad that that's how it had to happen. He wasn't getting, if he had visitors, if it was made aware that he, was having no one visit him in the care home, then maybe it wouldn't have got to that situation in the first place, and it would have been known that when he unfortunately passed away, that we wouldn't have had to do such an appeal to get people to attend his funeral. So, and I don't really think it's anybody's fault. It's just a sad thing that happens sometimes, and I don't, as a small charity, we try to reach out and find all those people that fall through the net, but it's an impossible task sometimes, and sometimes people don't want to be found. Some people do want to be on their own.
My ex-father-in-law, he was close to 100 when he died, and he had got so fit later in life that he was, riding bikes and riding with 40-year-olds because his friends couldn't keep up with him. And then he had no friends because they'd all died because they didn't get fit. And then near the end, he was like, why can't I die? I just want to go, but I'm too healthy. You know, it was a real problem.
Yeah.
It sounds
I
funny,
think
but it was a problem.
yeah, an issue you find with older people when they lose their friends, how on earth can they recreate 60, 70 years of friendship? You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
And we don't understand that, do we? Because we haven't known people for 60 or 70 years. But that's a massive loss. And you want that richness of contact,
Yeah.
people with that shared experience. So they can't really relate to their lives anymore. And they want to live it with people. That's what makes life so much fun, is doing things with people.
Right.
And you know, but we have I mean, one of the things that we do, we're very good at, we've got volunteers who are fairly old themselves that relate well to their clients. So our oldest volunteer is 102, and our oldest client is 95. So that's very powerful.
It's phenomenal. I love that they're out there doing it. And my own dad is in his 90s, and he's got all his smarts and his marbles, and he likes to go out and dance and play. And his wife is my age, and he keeps up. So it's pretty crazy. But it's an award-winning program that you created. And so, what is it about it that? Why is it an award-winning program? Did nobody think, gee, we should call people, and if they're lonely, how? Hello.
I think the awards are down to the individual. The people that we attract are remarkable people. They're very modest, and I don't want to identify them, but we have people who've had quite a tough life. They may be, they're fairly ill themselves very often. They've had a lot of knocks in life, yet they want to help others.
Yeah.
So it's very much two-way traffic. People helping people is so powerful. We get lots of our volunteers who may be quite lonely themselves, but they present as volunteers. Once they're engaged, then they're away, and they want more of this. We've seen people come to us in a distressed state, and then you'd hardly recognise them. But it's amazing. It's really about giving people an opportunity to connect. The power of connection and people to people.
How do you two stay positive and don't get, like, you're working with people who are dying all the time? How do you keep your sense of positivity and humor, I guess?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, there are days. I remember talking to my wife some time ago, and I had to go to 3 funerals in a week.
Oh, geez.
These are people you get close to. But I think we have a sense of humor, which we use appropriately.
Yeah.
We see this as fun. We enjoy doing what we're doing because we meet amazing people.
You do, yeah.
And I mean, our clinical director, she's a nurse that spent her entire professional career working with the dying, but she's a terrific person. She's full of beans, full of energy, and she's a very good person. So she brings out the best in people, and she enjoys the work.
It's special. Yeah, special people work with the dying for sure. And tell me Stephanie, tell me what this Letters with Louise is. What is this program?
Well, it's basically the paper version of Chatterbox instead of a telephone.
Okay.
Because I think everybody's finding nowadays with the internet and email and phones and tablets and computers, no one's writing letters to each other anymore. And a very special lady called Louise approached the charity. She wanted to do this. She realised with her own grandparents that nobody received letters anymore, and asked the charity if we could support the programme, which we did. And it's really successful. Lots of people have signed up to it. We have lots of volunteers, and we have lots of clients, and they just write to each other. They go on holiday. The volunteers go on holiday. They send postcards. They write about their holidays. Some pictures are exchanged, and the clients love it. They're getting to, some are housebound, so they're getting to see the world without having to leave their home. And if they haven't got a computer, it doesn't matter because they get to see pictures. It also complements Chatterbox, because we unfortunately have a waiting list because we're short on volunteers. So we offer a letter from Louise while they're waiting for the telephone service, and it complements it really well. And a lot of them sign up for it and really enjoy it, and then keep it when they do get their telephone book under. So they're getting 2 services. And one of them rang me the other day just to say how lovely it was to get something through the letterbox for a change.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking that, you know, if you went to the schools and you had children writing letters to rent a grandfather or rent a grandmother, and practicing their letters anyway as they write, that would be a good program, because we've lost this art of communicating, you know, and speaking through mail. And it's nice. People used to love to get a real letter. Now they get an email, but they never get a real letter. And my writing is so atrocious these days that I type everything. I'll type a letter, but I can't write it or script it, because you know, it's just terrible. Nobody can read it. I can't even read my own handwriting. I have to type notes to myself.
Yeah, there's something deeply personal about a letter. I don't know whether you have in Canada the Operation Christmas Child, where you put things in a shoebox.
Yes.
That was very amazing thing for people to do. So the letter from Louise is something that youngsters can get involved in. We'd actively, anyone listening to this now, we'd actively encourage them to get in touch with Steph, because no matter anywhere in the world, we can send a letter, can't we?
Absolutely.
And it would be amazing. There may be people that have lived in England at some stage, have got English relatives. It doesn't matter if they haven't. But it would be nice to hear from a letter from afar. We'd have to call it, you know, international letter from Louise.
And if you love stamps, you'll get a letter. You get a cool stamp from some place in the world that you can look at, right?
We collect stamps, of course, here. That's one of our things.
Yeah.
So yeah, we stamps and foreign currency and old phones. So it's all joined up and connected. But I think there's something fascinating from getting a letter from a far-flung place, where there's maybe only one little post office, and it can just be posted and then take a long time to get to someone. That would be so special.
Yeah, the clients love a postcard.
Yeah.
Postcards are good. Yeah, they're short, they're sweet, but you get a nice picture. I'm just wondering if you've done any studies about suicide and your program, how many suicides you might have prevented just by having somebody call that day and go, hey, you know, I'm thinking about you today.
Yeah, it's very hard to say. We're very much a preventative service. We work with Samaritans. I don't know if you have Samaritans in Canada, which is So we will have clients in common, but we both offer confidential services, so we would never know in many cases.
Right.
We certainly have people who self-harm, and we have people who have attempted suicide.
What is it like with seniors? Let's say, how likely are seniors to commit suicide?
It's not a common situation. We've had some tragic. We support bereaved people whose partners committed suicide.
Sure.
That comes up from time to time, but thank goodness it's still very rare. And suicide is something that affects generations.
And I guess it's a religious thing too. A lot of the older people are still religious, and so they're afraid to do.
It's definitely younger clients who have threatened it or tried.
Yeah, but I think self-harm is certainly an issue, and we have had bereavement, quite tragic bereavements involving suicide. But thank goodness they're not the main part of our work.
Is there euthanasia in England? Like, is there doctor assisted? No.
No, that's not an issue here at all. And it's not something that comes up very often. Politicians sometimes invite us to engage in the debate. Our position is we stay scrupulously neutral, because we want to be able to help anyone in either side of the argument, and that's the way we operate as a charity.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Like when I read about Chatterbox, I go, oh, I love it. I want to tell everybody about it. I think that's such a brilliant idea to call around. I mean, how easy is it? Like anybody could volunteer. I could sit here and I could call somebody today and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I know that, you know, you can't get out today, or especially in the winter, or, you know, it's icy. Or
we like people with professional experience of some of the issues we're dealing with. And we have to be careful, because we're working with vulnerable people. There are checks and balances, and we supervise the relationship very closely.
Well, do you do a training you must do a training?
Yeah, training, but also online supervision.
Okay. So somebody's listening all the time.
No, we check up after a call's been made. We contact both parties to make sure we're getting a consistent story and make sure the relationship is balanced. And then we have call records as well, which are read by Steph and her colleagues. And then we check it on
so you would call, let's say, Steph, let's say you might call and you'd say, did our caller call you today, or did our volunteer call you today? and was she pleasant, or were they that kind of questions? Like, what would you ask?
We tend to only check the first call, and then we do sporadic ones afterwards. But we tend to say, how did it go? Did you enjoy the conversation? Were you able to speak? And we speak to both parties. I haven't had a reply said that they haven't enjoyed it, and they look forward to it. And that it's normally more nervous for the offender than it is for the client, because the clients are quite desperate really to hear another voice or speak to somebody, because a lot of them go a week without speaking to anybody.
Is there a time frame? Like, are they supposed to talk for 15 minutes or no more than an hour, or do you have like parameters around the calls?
We make a suggestion of 30 minutes, and then really it's up to the offender and the client how it goes. And sometimes we have some clients, or one client would pick up the phone and then put the phone down straight away, and then the next call they'd listen for a minute and then put the phone down again, and then eventually they spoke. And then we have some clients who are chatterboxes themselves, and will be on the phone for nearly an hour to their offenders. So it really differs on the individual, but most of them do around the 30 minutes mark. They can talk for that.
So if I was somebody who wanted to be a client, what would I do? I could register. I could call you and say I need someone to.
We have leaflets that people can fill out a coupon and send to us. They can telephone us, of course. They can come online, or they can be referred by a health professional. And then the next stage is that Steph or a member of her team will speak to the client, tell them about the service, make sure it's appropriate. We have a triage process. So we're looking for factors of real need and hardship first and foremost. If we get urgent cases, they get right to the front of the queue and could be allocated as quickly as possible. In other cases, we may say, I'm so sorry, we've got people in greater need, we'll have to put them on a waiting list.
Yeah.
And then we keep in touch with them.
What would make somebody a rush case? What would make them an emergency care case? What kind of parameters?
End of life, for example, we've had cases where we had an American lady who was concerned about a friend in England, and I think she'd been given about 3 weeks to live and wanted some urgent help. So of course, then we step in immediately and we give some support and we arrange things. And this was someone living in the south of England. So a case like that would always go straight to the front of the queue, because then the work becomes very, very urgent.
Yeah.
So clearly an end of life issue. Secondly, if somebody was very, very old and still caring, we've got people in advancing years where there's a codependency, and they are absolutely desperate for help. They just need to unload. They're at breaking point, on the verge. So if we pick up on that, then we will intervene straight away.
But there's no in-home visit. It's all phone. Is that?
Yeah. We provide a lot of information as well. It's not just sometimes about just having a general chat with people.
Yeah.
It's signposting, and they have questions, and that's what gets put down on the call records. And then in the office, we do all the research for them so that the offender can go back to the information next time.
What about, you have clients who have Alzheimer's and different kinds of things, or you don't take those clients?
No, we had a client with Alzheimer's, and unfortunately, it was lovely because he made a real connection with his befriender, and then unfortunately the befriender passed away because she was elderly, and he couldn't connect with anybody else. And his relative told us that he never remembered anybody's name, but he remembered his befriender. Every time the call was due, he remembered that. So we kept in touch with him for a while, and then thankfully we were able to signpost him to face-to-face befriending, which was more suitable to him after his Chatterbox befriender passed.
Do you have, is it widespread, your organization, throughout, like you're in the Midlands, but is it all throughout Great Britain? Is it into the whole island?
We tend to work right around the Midlands. We can deal with people out of area, provided they're emergency cases. So because we are fairly small, we like to have local knowledge. So it's good to have people that understand the community that our clients live in. Sometimes people will talk to anyone. They don't care about the local person, so that's fine as well. But we've had people in Northern Ireland, we've had people in the south of England, we've got someone in Cornwall, so which is as far as we can get, probably, certainly in the southwest.
What's your biggest need? What's your biggest need right now?
it's finding quality befrienders, and that's the service is led by the caliber of the people that we get.
Gotcha.
And we're so fortunate to get brilliant people. Lots of them are too busy to help because they're flat out and doing busy lives, but they can spare an hour, and that's good for them. It's nice to stop sometimes and do something good.
Yes.
And so we look for busy, capable people. And
Okay.
if you're a person listening to this, jolly well pick up the phone or send us an email.
Yeah. If you're in the Midlands and you want to help, and you're
Anywhere.
yeah, or anywhere, and you know, you just want to help people and talk to some lonely people and people who might be, you know, end of life stages, it makes you feel good, give them a call and get yourself some training and get on the phone and start making people feel better. That's awesome. Do you need money? Is money an issue for you guys?
We always need money, but I mean the people come first, the money comes second.
I like that. I never hear that, Thomas. I like that.
Well, yeah, no, we've been inspired by a wonderful professor called Alan Kelleher. He's an Australian and prolific author. His most famous book is called Compassionate Cities.
Okay.
He was at the Centre for Deaf.
I want to read that. Compassionate Cities?
Yeah, Professor Alan Kelleher. Now, if you can get hold of him, you'd make a wonderful person to interview.
Yeah.
He's based at the University of Bradford in West Yorkshire, but he's an amazing guy. Anyway, he said to me once, he said, don't worry about the money, go and do the work, the money will come. And that's the way we operate. People, you know, we found you just by chance. Good people just come forward and offer to help, and that's the way we try and operate. I mean, clearly, you know, money is important, but we try and we roll our sleeves up and get stuck in. We're just about to start a social enterprise called Delphinium, which hopefully will subsidise the charitable work, and that's something that will start very small, and people then will pay for a service, and then any surplus that we generate will go into Chatterbox.
Delphinium.
Yeah, Delphinium. Yes. That's going to be, we've got a crowdfunding project that's going to be launched this month. And also, I think people can vote for via an insurance company called Aviva. That's going to be, I think, going live on the 23rd of October. It's not there yet, but it will be on our website.
I think I saw you on Facebook. Did I find you on Facebook?
We're not very good with social media. We do have a Chatterbox Facebook account.
Okay. Where would I have found you? I don't even remember now, but I remember, you know.
Yeah, we have 2 Twitter accounts.
Oh, it was Twitter. That was it.
Twitter, yeah. So I think we're pretty okay with Twitter, and we have a rudimentary website, but we're not bristling with technology.
Well, we're trying. We just don't have the time.
Yeah. I mean, we are, hopefully we will get better at it, because it's so wonderful to be able to reach out to someone in Canada and have a conversation with them like this. I think it cheers us up.
Well, the world, really. We're talking to the world right now, so yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, if somebody does listen to this and wants to get in touch, please contact Steph and let's start something else, because we want more people to start Chatterboxes.
Yes.
In any local authority area, anywhere in the world, really, and just work in your own communities and get cracking.
It's a brilliant program, and kudos to you for organizing it and to leading it and making it work. That's fantastic. How many clients do you have? Do you service right now?
Well, we're working towards 300 a
wow,
year.
that's phenomenal.
We have a program, a 3-month program to try and get people to reconnect. Because one of the things we do is we try and lose clients by passing them on into the community. So we plan to have 3 rolling programs of 3 months. It doesn't work like that. People stay with us. Once we get hold of somebody, then we have them for a long time, sometimes until they die or the offender dies. But that's the model we try and adopt. But the main thing for us is to get more people doing this kind of work. And faith groups can do it, friendship groups can do it, and employers can do it. So Chatterbox is for everyone. It's scalable. It's something that works, and you'll get so much from it.
Thomas Memory, Steph Waters, thank you so much for being my guest today. We're gonna say goodbye to all of you on Facebook. I love having you in the chat room. Himanish, thank you so much for your support today, and we will see you next week. Stick around, don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Frankie, and keep up the good work.